Whoa. My name is Bill, and I am the father of an addict. First of all, I want to thank the committee for allowing me, a non-addict, to come up and use this microphone. It's truly an honor. About 3-4 weeks ago, I was having lunch. Don't mind me, I'm nervous. I was having lunch with my son, and I asked him who was going to have introduce him at Ripley, and he said, "You." I said, "Oh, shit." So, I am here. I've been, I forget the word. Anyway, about a couple months before he got clean, I was ready for his funeral. He was bad. He was dead emotionally, spiritually, and he used for a number of years. I'm sure he'll share that with you. And then, thank God, he found recovery. And since that time, he has completely changed, and so have I. He came to Ripley shortly after he got clean, and he hasn't missed since. I was honored. He asked me to come down about 4 or 5 years ago, and this is my 4th trip here. And I was truly honored that he asked me to introduce him. I don't want to say too much, except that, in my outside opinion, he is a model recovering addict. He takes this program very seriously. He's a different individual today. We have a good relationship today. It's not perfect, but it's pretty damn good. And I wouldn't trade it for the world. And because of his addiction and his recovery, I have made lots of friends in Narcotics Anonymous. And if he keeps doing what he's doing, and I pray that he does, but the choice is his, he will end up with an eternity coin. And I brought some Kleenex in case I need it. But it is an honor and a privilege to introduce my son, Brian.
I'm Brian. I'm an addict. Thanks, Dad. I love you. My mom's here, too. I love you, too. My biggest supporters. Could we please take a moment of silence so I can get out of the way? All right, thank you. Can everybody hear me okay? All right. All right, this is awesome for me. I absolutely love Ripley. I love this convention. I have an awesome time down here. This place literally changed my life. I had my first spiritual awakening out on the bridge at 67 days clean, and I knew that Narcotics Anonymous was my home. I knew that I could stay clean one day at a time, and it hit me like a ton of bricks, and I haven't used since. I always start off by reading some literature, if you don't mind. Even if you do mind, I'm still going to do it. I love our literature. I am a huge fan of it. I don't study it as much as I used to be honest, but I absolutely love it. The first part that I read is out of our preface to our Living Clean, The Journey Continues book. Is that better if I lean up a little? All right. It says, the most important thing about living clean is that we are alive to do it. And for people with the disease of addiction, this is nothing less than a miracle. We do recover to live full and rewarding lives. Those lives present us with challenges, some of which we never expected. Living beyond our wildest dreams often means that we are in uncharted territory. The countless addicts that have contributed to this book have made clear that the miracle of getting clean is not the last one we experience or the last one we need. We have learned that we can really survive anything and stay clean. It is never too late to start over, reconnect with the fellowship, work steps, have a spiritual awakening, and find a new way to live. As long as we are willing to stay clean and keep coming back, our recovery continues to unfold in ways we could never imagine. We are living clean, and every day the journey continues. Man, is my heart pounding.
Doing great.
I'd rather have it pounding up here behind the podium, speaking with you, because I remember putting my fingers up to my neck, not knowing if I was going to survive, not knowing if I had to call 911 on myself. And I'd rather have it pounding with you guys and understanding where I'm coming from and getting those heads shaking as I'm saying this, because I know I'm not alone. I know I'm not the only one that did that. Our second part that I read, and I cry a lot behind the podium. I've never not cried behind the podium. I do it every time, and it's tears of joy, it's tears of gratitude, and I'm very emotional and passionate about what I do here in Narcotics Anonymous and fellowship as a whole. So just to forewarn you, my dad left cleanups here for me. So I asked him to, because I forgot to bring them myself. Sorry. Okay, it says, this is out of the 6th edition basic text. It says, we hope that the 6th edition basic text will offer a vision of recovery for addicts around the world, those who have already found the rooms of NA, and those who will walk through our doors tomorrow. Over the years, our fellowship has changed and our literature has expanded and been revised, but the message remains the same. An addict, any addict, can stop using drugs, lose the desire to use, and find a new way to live. Find a new way to live. You are welcome here. Please stay and be a part of our growth, change, and recovery. I found 3 places in our literature where it says the word please. It's on the inside dust jacket, and it's on the end of what is the Narcotics Anonymous programs. And it says many books have been written about the nature of addiction. This book primarily concerns itself with the nature of recovery. If you are an addict and you have found this book, it says, please give yourself a break and read it. That always helps me get centered reading that stuff. I appreciate it. There's a lot of you. It's all right. 650 chairs in here, I was told. I was taught to tell you guys a little bit about myself, where I come from, how I got here, and most importantly, what I do to stay here. I feel like it's important to tell a little bit about my background for identification purposes. I think it helps me with time when people do it, and I think it also helps people when I was new. I remember being able to identify. I don't tell war stories. Our literature talks about in the group thing, I think it is, that we all know what it's like to use. And I don't talk about specific drugs. I have an allergic reaction to drugs. It doesn't matter if it's over-the-counter medication. I have to be careful what I take with that. I go to the pharmacist and say, hey, I have a cold. What can I take? I need to be careful. So I remember I grew up in Warren Niles, Howland, Ohio, which is down by up by Youngstown. And, my parents are here. I came from a very loving family. I was provided for, and they were very loving, and I grew up great. I was an addict before I picked up the use of drugs. I remember sticking my finger in a light socket and hurting myself and knowing that I shouldn't do it again, and then putting it back there anyway, or getting on the sit and spin and making myself spin around and get real dizzy, get out of myself and not really liking it, and then doing it again anyway. Or making kids make me pass out on the playground to get that euphoric feeling, and then the teacher saying that can really harm you, and doing it again anyway. And then I used, and I didn't stop. I didn't have an invisible line that I crossed over. It talks about, I'm going to quote the literature, and it's not because I memorize it, it's because I study it and I learn how to live it. So the first, in there it says, oblivion was preferable, and that was me right from the get-go. I used every day at a very young age. I was very good at hiding it. My parents had no idea what was going on. And I was a daily user at the age of 12, 13 years old. And by the time I got to high school, it's progressive nature. I kept using more. I kept using different stuff. By the time I reached my junior year, my parents didn't quite know what was wrong with me, so they suggested that I go to an all-guys school for kids that, like, troubled kids. And, and who's an addict, it talks about periods of abstinence in our life. That was like my first period of abstinence that I can recall. And I went to the school and I started to do well. And it was for the first time in my life I started to get good grades. I started to get interested in a little bit of sports. And I did well. And it was the first time that I realized that, hey, maybe I could do something with myself. Maybe I'm not such a fuck up. And then water seeks its own level. I found the people that I like to get with, and I do what I always do, and I continue to use. And I got arrested for the first time at the age of 17, and I got kicked out of that school, and I got sent to an outpatient treatment center, and I got introduced to the rooms of AA. And I love AA. Our literature talks about our gratitude for that fellowship, because if it weren't for them, we wouldn't have this. I don't like fellowship bashing. I might tease every once in a while with my friends, but I don't believe in it. Jimmy K gave the steps to us, or Bill Wilson, they gave the steps to us and asked us just not use the word alcohol. And I'm real happy about that. But I couldn't identify, mostly because I was 17 years old. Not because of the age, I shouldn't say that. It's because I was closed-minded. The age had nothing to do with it. I was very closed-minded. I thought I knew everything. I didn't want to hear what people had to say. People were welcoming to me, but I heard war stories, and I couldn't identify. So that's not me. I'm not that bad. I haven't done that. And I kept using. And barely graduated high school. Parents thought, my dad always instilled in me, he always thought that, if you can just get a good job and get a good career, everything's going to be okay. And they not pressured me, a little bit, into going to college. And I went to a branch of a university for a year, and I really have no idea how I passed. And I finished that branch of school, and my parents said, wouldn't you go up to the main campus? And my disease literally instantly said, good. Now I can go use where I want, when I want, how I want to, and wherever I want to do it. And that's exactly what I did. After my parents dropped me off, I was using within 5 minutes of them leaving the dorm room. And that was it. Used all through college. I don't remember a lot of it. I had like a moment of clarity or something, or the literature talks about where we stand face to face with our disease. And, I was in this African drum ensemble class, and I was really liking it. It was the only class that I went to, and I started to miss because of my using. And the instructor said, if you miss one more time, you're not going to be allowed to play in this big concert that they do at the end of the year. It's this huge concert. All the faculty come, all the staff come, or the students come. And what a good addict like me do, I missed class, and I wasn't allowed to play in that. So what happened was the concert was going on, and I remember walking in the back doors in the middle of it and watching that class up on stage playing, and I was bawling my eyes out because I didn't know what was wrong. How did I get here? I don't understand. But having that thing, I knew it was the drugs. I did. I knew it was the drugs years ago, but I couldn't stop. And I kept on using, got arrested again, blah, blah, blah. I met a friend at that university that lived on a little island down in North Carolina. And, excuse me, let me get a drink of water. And he said, why don't you come down and live on this island after I went on vacation there? And I said, no. I said, I got stuff going on. He says, all you're doing is working and partying. And I said, yeah, he's kind of right. And I did that first geographical change where I thought if I could just move to this little island, 28 miles off the coast of the United States, I'm going to be okay. I can go down there. I'm going to change everything. I think I'm just going to be okay. And that's what I did. And my disease progressed. I woke up from that 3.5 years later. I'd already started cooking. I decided that if I could just go to culinary school and get a good job, just like my dad always said, if I can just go to culinary school, get a good job, everything's going to be okay. And I did. I went to culinary school. I ended up cooking for about 17 and a half years. I had another period of abstinence in my life while I was in culinary school, and I excelled. And not to be egotistical, but like it's like when I put the drugs down, I can do some things in my life. Even when I had no recovery, there was a 6-month period where I excelled. I graduated at the top of 3 classes because my obsession and compulsion from using switched to school. And I did well. And I ended up at one of the best restaurants in the whole United States and one of the world-renowned recognized, I didn't even say that right, but you know what I mean. And, but my disease stripped that from me. My disease took everything from me. It took my relationships with my family. It took my career. It took my soul. And I woke up in New York City, and a couple years later, not knowing what to do, and I called my loving, enabling parents and said, I need you to come get me. And my loving, enabling parents came to come pick me up. My dad did. Because I thought, my sister's having a baby. She's living in Columbus. If I could just move home and be close to family and get away from New York City, everything's going to be okay. And you guys relate? Yeah. Some of you can, I'm sure. So my dad drove a U-Haul. I think it was like 10 hours. Came, picked me up. I was using the whole night before. I didn't even pack any of my stuff. I was an absolute mess. I'm scrambling first thing in the morning. And we start driving back, and I can't stay awake. And, he wanted me to drive. And we drove. I drove for, I think, maybe 20 minutes or something. And I was so scared that I was going to wreck the truck that I was like, Dad, I need you to drive. And he was like, what? I was like, I can't drive. I need you to drive. And I don't know what went through his mind. You have to ask him after the meeting. We talked about it once, but I'm still fried, so I don't really remember everything he said. But we drove. He drove the rest of the way home. When I got clean, part of my ninth step, we went on a vacation back to North Carolina, and I drove the whole way. That might not sound like a lot to some of you, but that shit is what's priceless to me in recovery, is just being there. Just driving a car sometimes is, for me, without even saying anything. My dad heard me share it probably 6 months later behind the podium because he comes to NA with me. He probably didn't even know that meant so much to me. But that kind of stuff means the world to me. So I don't want to talk too long about my past. I always kind of stay on it, but I lived in Columbus after that, and I remember walking back and forth to cop what I was copping, and there was a rehab facility that I would walk by, and the disease part of my brain would say, go get one more. You got to get one more. You got $10 in your pocket. You go get one more. And the logical part of my brain would say, go into that treatment center. You've been introduced to this kind of stuff. You know there's help out there for you. But when I'm using, man, I can't stop. I am under the grip of a continuous and progressive illness. And I couldn't stop, and I walked right up to that dope man, and I kept copping. I remember it was like 12:30 at night one night, pouring down rain. And what did I do? I called my loving, enabling parents to come pick me up again and bring me home. And my dad and my uncle came to pick me up, and I weighed 145 pounds. I weigh like 220 right now, so you can imagine. They say we grow in recovery, and yeah, that's all right. It's better than that shit, I'll tell you that. And but I'll never forget the look of my dad and my uncle's face when I walked out of that door. The horrified look on them. They didn't know. They didn't know the extent. They still don't know the extent of what I was doing. We don't need to talk about that. They don't need to know the extent of the drug use that I was doing and what type of drugs. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter now. It's about recovery. It's about getting better. There's some stuff they just don't need to know. I have some stuff that has happened to me clean. I've had some stuff that's happened to me while I was using that I asked for help before I came to speak here because my parents were going to be here. And I said, do you think that's appropriate for me to share behind the podium? And they said no, because it's to injure them or others. And there's stuff that they just don't need to know. And they don't care. They don't care if I don't tell them. I asked them, my mom and my dad, before I got up here, they said, don't hold back. You share whatever you need to share up there. And I appreciate that. So I came home, and I'll get right back to, I went to my first treatment center on my own. I went to a treatment center in downtown Youngstown. I stayed there 28 days. I heard there was one H&I meeting that came in, and it was the first time that I was introduced to the Rooms of Narcotics Anonymous. If you don't know what H&I is, if you're brand new, it stands for Hospitals and Institutions. It's when caring addicts or willing addicts of Narcotics Anonymous take a meeting into a facility where they don't allow outside meetings. If that's not clarity enough, just ask somebody after the meeting that can help explain it. I'm sure somebody would be willing to. And I heard the message of Narcotics Anonymous every Monday night. And the first time I heard it, there was a guy from North Carolina that spoke. And my head popped up because I could relate just to that little bit. And, oh man. Here we go again. My buddy Richard, he was a really good friend of mine. He brought that meeting in. He died a year ago, September, with an eternity coin in his casket and a Narcotics Anonymous blanket over his casket. That gave me a lot of hope, and I love him dearly. And he brought that meeting in, and I'll be forever grateful. And he told me that it was at one of the worst periods of my life. He said that I had my elbows on my knees. He said I couldn't even look up at him. And he told me a story. He said after the meeting, I walked up to him and I said, "What's the difference between NA and AA?" And he says, "If your ass is on fire, do you care what color the fire truck would be?" And that's all he said. And and I said, "No, I guess not." And my friend died of an overdose when I was in that rehab facility. And I heard those fucking stupid statistics that say 1 in 10 of you can make it. And I believe that. I'm going to be that one. I don't like those statistics. It says an addict, any addict. It doesn't say 1 in 10 of you can make it. It says an addict, any addict. So I heard those statistics of my disease. Oh, you're going to be that one. You checked yourself into rehab. You're going to do everything they told you to do. And I did almost everything they told me to do. And I went to meetings. I did a meeting a day for 90 days. I got a sponsor. I didn't get a home group. I barely used a sponsor. Because I was new. I didn't know. I tried. I was definitely trying to stay clean. And I started working again, and I started building relationships again, and I started putting work in front of my meeting attendants. And somebody in Narcotics Anonymous pulled me aside after a meeting and said, "Brian, you're starting to miss a lot of meetings. We think you might want to take a look at that." And here I went again. I can handle it. I got this. I'm good. Anytime that I say I can handle it, I'm usually in some trouble. And because I can't, and I still can't. I still got problems. And I used to drive by the place where I share this every time. But you guys haven't really heard my story before, so I guess it doesn't matter. And I used to drive by the exit that I used to cop on my way to work. My disease part of my brain would say, "Go get one more." I bet if you get one more, you could probably just do one. And then next weekend, you could probably do one more and you're going to be okay. And for weeks. The logical part of my brain would say, "No, go get one more." Or go to work. See, I'm still crazy. And but I did that for a while. And I'll never forget, man, like it's yesterday. It was in 2007, as a matter of fact. And I remember pulling out of my parents' house, because of course I'm living at home still. And I'm driving to work, and I'm pulling out of my parents' house, and my disease says, "Go get one more." The logical part says, "No, go call your sponsor." I'm telling you, literally, I turned the car around 6 times. "Go call your sponsor. Go get one more. Call your sponsor." And I looked at myself in the rearview mirror, and I said, "Fuck it. I'm just going to go get one more." That one more almost killed me. I spent another 1.5 years out there. I ended up homeless again. I ended up jobless again. And I remember using an NA t-shirt and looking at the NA symbol on my shirt. It was a long sleeve, and it was right here. And going, "There's another way. there's another way. I know there's another way out there. And I remember running an errand for the dope man like we do. Anybody relate to running errands for the dope man? Yeah, all right. Well, if you don't, that's okay. Stick around. If you don't relate to my story, just stick around anyway and listen to somebody else's, because you might be able to relate to that. And I go to a restaurant and I'm getting them food, and I'm walking out, and there's a table full of ladies from Narcotics Anonymous. You know what they did? They stood up and they hugged me. And they said, "Where have you been? We want you back. Are you okay?" They didn't turn their heads because I was a dope fiend. And they loved me, and I cried the whole way back to the dough man. And I couldn't stop. And you guys know what it's like to not to be able to stop? Like waking up in the morning going, "I'm not going to use today. I'm not going to use today." It says in here, it says, even with the most sincere desire. I remember having that sincere desire. And the next thing you know, I'm out the door and I'm using against my will. Or having a pile full of a certain substance and going, "Okay, I'm going to save this for tomorrow. This is going to last me all week," right? Yeah. And then being up for however long and my body aching, going, "I just need to go to bed. I need to go to sleep. This will be here tomorrow. I know I can do this." And then not being able to stop, and I'm using it all anyway, against my will. And I remember that kind of stuff. And thank God I got arrested again. And I've actually gone back and I've thanked the judge since then, the nudge from the judge. And my parents, for some reason, because I was going to see my probation officer for the first time, let me back in the house. And it was the 3 days before I was supposed to go see my probation officer. And I was standing in my old bedroom. And man, our literature explains it beautifully, and how it works, where it talks about we come face to face with our disease, all the lies, all the pretenses, and on and on. And that happened to me, and I was standing in my parents' bedroom, and I look over at the nightstand, and there's a knife, and it was either slit my wrist or get some help. And I walked downstairs, and I said, "Mom, I'm going to call a treatment center." And she looked at me, and she goes, "It's about time." And I did, and I called that treatment center. And thank God I had insurance. And they drove me up there. And I walked into that treatment center. And I literally fell into a member of Narcotics Anonymous' arms. And he said, "Welcome home." He said, "Put the bat down." He says, "Quit doing this to yourself." And I stayed there for 28 days. And I didn't do much for a while. I was like hiding behind the bed and missing stuff, and I hated those damn God lectures. And no offense, if you got like a totally awesome God of your understanding, or you got here with a God of your understanding, more the power to you. I was a strict atheist when I got here. I didn't have shit to help me, and I literally would cringe up on the inside. So I hated being in that treatment center. And my counselor told me, he says, "If you don't start doing what you're supposed to do, we're going to ask you to leave." And I said, "Oh shit, I don't have anywhere to go." Later that night, I was standing in my room, and I guess I was praying, and I put my hands up in the air, and I said, "I surrender, I surrender, I surrender. I can't do this anymore. I need help." And I haven't turned back since. And thanks. And they suggested that I go to a three-quarter-way house, so I did. And there was 26 guys in that three-quarter-way house, and not a single one of them did Narcotics Anonymous. And they said, "You can't stay clean in Narcotics Anonymous. They sell drugs at Narcotics Anonymous." Blah, blah, blah. Shit. How many people have a year or more clean in here? How many people have today clean? That's substantial clean, right? That's what I'm talking about. Clean time isn't always about years. It says substantial clean time, man. It's a day clean is a fucking miracle, man. If you're clean today, that's awesome. But they told me that, and I said, "Fuck you, watch me." I did. And I didn't listen to them. And you know what? I made it to a meeting a day for 6 months, if not 2 meetings a day, because people in the rooms in Narcotics Anonymous helped me because I called them and asked for help and says, "I need a ride to a meeting." I didn't miss a meeting. For 6 months, I didn't have a car. And then when I got a car, guess what I did? I gave somebody a ride to a meeting because they told me to pay it forward. I'd go to meetings, and I remember asking people, "Hey, are you going for coffee tonight?" They're like, no. I'm like, do you want to? And I remember asking the guy, I was like, well, I don't have any money. Can you buy me a cup of coffee? And they were like, sure we can. Some of those people were in this room. So I started doing a lot of Narcotics Anonymous meetings. I got really involved with our basic text. And I stayed clean. And I came down here. A bunch of guys were coming down here. They were all riding their motorcycles down. And I kept saying, man, that sounds like a lot of fun. And my buddy says to me, he says, do you want to go? And I said, I don't have any money. He says, I didn't ask you that. He said, I asked if you wanted to go. And those guys brought me down here, and I was really uncomfortable. The clean time countdown absolutely blew me away. And you know what? I was getting excited because we got a rowdy bunch tonight. It's rowdier than the last couple of Ripley's. And I love it. I love it. So tonight during Clean Time Countdown, get rowdy. Because that shit blew me away at 67 Days Clean. I had never been in a room this large with this many recovering addicts clean, and I was fucking blown away. And it changed me. And I remember walking out to that bridge. It was like 12:30 at night. It was after the Clean Time Countdown. And I told you that at the beginning when I started talking, and I had this chill come over me. And I was like, oh my God, this is awesome. I love Narcotics Anonymous. From that moment, man, this place changed my life. And my dad said, I haven't missed one since. It doesn't matter how many I've been to. I just know I haven't missed one. And I'm very passionate about it. And I've made friends here that are some of my best friends in the world. And I only get to see them when I come here. And we try to change that. We've been working really hard on that the past couple of years of trying to get together as much as we can when we can and talking as much as possible. And recovery is, it's been fucking awesome, man. I had no idea that it was going to be this good. I remember being here that night and saying that I was an atheist and blah, blah, blah. And the guy that I stayed with stayed up till like 4:30 in the morning, and I just sat there and listened, and he shared his experiences with me. And I got busy into the step work. I'm not going to go through each individual step. But what I will tell you is that I understood the disease in the first step a lot more. I had no idea that it ran that deep, and it still runs deep with me. And then I got into the second and third, and I was, my sponsor told me, because I got onto 2, and I was like, man, is this where I'm supposed to be reading about all this God literature and blah, blah, blah? And he says, Brian, he says, the step 2 doesn't say anything about God. And I went, what? He said, it says a power greater than ourselves. And I was like, oh. Sometimes, man, it's just that little, like Ripley is a power greater than myself. That experience that I had here was a power greater than myself. When I go to a meeting and I'm feeling a certain way and a topic comes up and I'm like, whoa. And then I feel better when I leave the meeting, restoring me to sanity. And I was like, damn, I'm about practical applications of the steps. I can work them. I can talk about them. Our literature says it prepares us for the spiritual experience of living the steps. So my sponsor that I have now really drills into me the practical application of living it. If I don't theorize and talk about it and write on it, how am I going to live it, though? So I'm not confused about that. So I don't know what else to tell you. I go home and I found some odds and ends jobs. And I was real grateful to be working, making minimum wage. I didn't care. I was just be happy to be working. And what happened was I left that job a couple years later. They said to me, why don't you go back? I was staying in that 3-quarter house. I had moved out. I had gotten to know some people in the facility. And they said, why don't you come work for us? And I went, whoa. I said, okay. I said, that sounds great, because I couldn't go back to cooking. I knew that if I went back to cooking, I remember one of the guys who's probably in here tonight, he said to me, he says, how come you don't want to go back and cook? I said, because if I go back and cook, I'm probably going to get high again. He says, oh, well then don't go cook. Because I thought he was going to be like telling me, well, you should, because that's your career. And he says, then don't go cook. And it was like, oh, cool, I don't have to go cook anymore. And so I interviewed, and it took me about 6 months. Long story short, I got into the facility that I got clean in. And I dedicate my life to helping other people. It's hard. People die all the time. And I'm good at it some days, and other days I'm a complete asshole, and I piss my coworkers off, and they piss me off. But the bottom line is helping those patients, and we have NA meetings in there, and I love the fact that I'm allowed to talk about Narcotics Anonymous in the facility that I work at, and I'm really grateful about that. I don't push it on anybody. I know not to do that, but if they ask, I share. And I remember riding up there. Like the guys that rode down here kept saying, Brian, you stay clean, you can get a motorcycle too, because I used to like walk up to meetings and I'd just be like looking at them, checking them out. And my buddy Jared would always say, man, Brian, you stay clean, you can get one too. Brian, you stay clean, you can get one too. So my dad had bought a scooter because he learned how to live his life again for what he wanted to do. And he let me ride this little blue scooter around. It was like a 450cc. And these biker guys in Narcotics Anonymous didn't give a shit. And they rode with me anyway. It was awesome. Because they were real grateful that they were seeing me progress in this thing, and how happy I was just to be doing something new and exciting, and I had the wind in my face, and now I'm a rider, man, and I ride all the time, and I absolutely love it. And I remember riding up to the facility that I work at for the first time. I was working security, and it was, the stars were out, the moon was out, and I was riding up to that facility on this little scooter on the highway, and I had tears falling out of my eyes. Because I was grateful, man. I was grateful just to be clean. And I'll never forget that. And then, my credit sucked, and it still sucks. But my dad eventually co-signed for a motorcycle for me, and I haven't missed a payment since. And I have a motorcycle now, and I ride it with one of my good friends. We've probably put 40 or 50,000 miles on together. It was only a couple years ago that I got it. And we're trying to plan a trip across the country in a couple years, and I want to go visit Narcotics Anonymous. Remember that Tony guy that spoke from California? And when he spoke, he invited us to his home group. That's our goal, is to make it to his home group. And it sounds like a lot of fun. It sounds like a beautiful place. It's a goal to set. My credit card's maxed out right now. Sorry, I wasn't going to say it behind the podium. My credit card's maxed out right now because of obsession and compulsion. Sorry, Mom. Sorry, Dad. And I wasn't going to tell him, but hey, it is what it is. Because I suffer from the disease of addiction clean, right? Because I'm a concert guy and I love this band, and we have the PLF family and all that kind of stuff. And I buy these posters, right? It sounds insane, but I get so obsessed. Ask my girlfriend, man. I sit in front of the computer and I'm looking at this stuff. I'm constantly looking at my phone, and so I spend all my money on shit like that. And now I'm trying to dig myself out, knowing that I was going to do it. Sitting there going, and I've had times where I'm like, okay, don't hit send on the PayPal. Don't hit send. And I've had times where I didn't hit send, but I've had other times where I said, fuck it, click. Right? Because I suffer, man. But see, that's the thing, is like I had a decision. I had a decision to make, and I was clean enough and aware enough of how my disease was beating me up. I wasn't in denial anymore, and I do it anyway. So I go to these concerts, right? And we have fellowship there, and we have people that attend 12-step meetings. And I go to Chicago this past summer, and I go with some friends that I still have from the past that use a little bit. I don't know how they do it. I don't care how they do it. They can and have normal lives. I just know I can't. And I went to this concert. It's a 3-night run. And I go the first night, I go with a guy in recovery and kind of hang out with them a little bit. Go to hang out with them, other people in recovery at the same time, kind of balance it out. Second night, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to hang out with my really good friends. Because they are. Just because they're using does not mean that they're not my dear friends. I've known them for years. And we go back and we're sitting on the lawn and they're partying and I'm getting really uncomfortable. And there's a meeting that we have together to help each other stay clean. And I went to that meeting, and the next day I made a decision not to hang out with them. And I'm going to hang out with the people in recovery tonight where I feel comfortable. I'm talking with, 5.5 years clean. I've got 5 years, 8 months, whatever. I'll tell you how long I have clean because it's a hope shot. I don't give a shit, man. That ain't ego. That's a hope shot for the newcomer. And so the next day, we're going to get lunch, and we go, they wanted to get the liquid drug. So we stop and get the liquid drug, and we get out of my car, and I'm carrying the liquid drug in my hand with 5.5 years clean. And I walk into their house, and I go to put it in the fridge. I take it out of the bag, and I'm looking at the label going, what's this? I've never seen this kind before. I wonder what this tastes like. And I go to and I put it in the fridge, and I feel my phone vibrate, and I didn't save another addict's phone number, and so I didn't know who it was, but it says, I need you to call me right away. And so I called them right away. And it was Christina. And she says, I got news for you. She said, I want you to share at the Ripley convention. I fucking lost my shit, man. I lost my shit because I had drugs in my hand. And God did for me what I couldn't do for myself. And I got a text message saying, I need you to call me right now. That shit was profound for me. And here I am. And I'm honored. Man, this is a big deal. I don't take this lightly. It's a responsibility up here. I wanted to speak here. I did. I think it's awesome. I get excited about service. You know, our literature talks about some people are good at doing this, some people are going to that. And it says the most important thing is that we be ourselves. And I feel like I'm myself when I can share with you guys. And I enjoy it. I mean, you can think whatever you want, man. I enjoy being behind the podium and carrying this message because I love this message. I've had a lot of crazy experiences in NA. I listen. I haven't had like surgeries. I haven't had a death of a loved one that was major that rocked me too hard. My grandfather passed away. I forget how long I had clean when my grandfather passed away. And, you guys told me to pray, and I was like, whatever. The first time I prayed was when I needed a new sponsor, and my buddy says, why don't you pray about it? And I said, I ain't doing that. And he says, just try it. And I did. So that night in the three-quarter house, I said, please reveal a sponsor to me. And that's all I said. 10 minutes later, I shot up out of bed, and I said, oh, shit, Justin's supposed to be my sponsor. And I called him, and I said, Justin, I need to talk to you. And you know what he said to me? He says, I'll be right there. And 10 minutes later, he's at the three-quarter house going, what's wrong? Are you okay? He's the only one that came to see me in treatment beside my parents because I didn't have any friends left. And I asked him to sponsor me, and he did for like 3.5 years. And there was another praying story, but I can't remember what it is now. Do you remember what it was? So that was like my first real experience with praying. I'm not a huge prayer guy. I love our Living Clean. It kind of talks about how some of us like live a prayer and walk a prayer. I struggle maybe a little bit in that area still where I don't consciously pray, but I do things that align me with my higher power's will. And I get spiritually filled up that I know that I'm kind of praying and that things are going well for me. And I don't know. I think I'm almost done. There's not much else to say. I can tell you that if you're new or you've been around for a long time, please stay. And I'm going to try to do the same. I guess I'm coming to a close. I close with two things. And, when I got here, my buddy Stitch told me that you guys used to do it a long time ago, and I'm bringing it back. My friends call me Shappy, so Shappy's bringing it back. S-H-A-P-P, well, not C. I hate the C. So don't call me Chappy. And by the way, when the doors opened and people were like wanted to sit up front and some people had to go back there, thank you for everybody that wanted to sit up front because they wanted to be up close and support me. That was fucking awesome, man. There was a little bickering and there was but if the big picture is like this many people want to sit up front and listen and support me, that's fucking awesome, man. So thank you. But Stitch told me this, and I'm bringing it back, man. He says, work the steps or die, motherfucker. Right? We clap, and we get excited about that, and we laugh because I said motherfucker behind the podium. But the reality is that we're dying. And this is not a joke. This is a celebration down here, but I take this thing serious, man. because my life is at stake. And the other thing that I want to say is don't use no matter what. My buddy Richard, with 30 years, used to sit down with me. He says, Brian, he says, you learn to say that with conviction. He says, learn to say it from deep within inside of you. He says, you don't use no matter what. Do you feel me? Do you know what I'm talking about? I'm talking about don't use no matter what. And I used to get up in the morning, I would look at myself in the mirror, and I'd say, I am not using today. I am not using, I am not using, I am not using. And the day kept moving, and it kept moving forward. And I've got so many stories I could tell you, but I want you to remember those two things. Work the steps or die, motherfucker, and don't use no matter what.